John Pierce never believed in coincidences. At 42, he ran Pierce Security Solutions, the most advanced private security firm in the Northeast. The company specialized in protecting high-profile individuals, diplomats, tech moguls, anyone who could afford his premium services. John's reputation was built on two principles: absolute loyalty and devastating retribution for betrayal. His office overlooked Boston Harbor from the 47th floor. Rain spattered against the wall of windows as John reviewed the latest security protocols. The phone rang. His personal line, the one only 3 people knew. "Pierce," he answered. "Mr. Pierce, it's Detective Rodriguez. Your private line number. There's been an incident at your children's school. We need you to come down." 20 minutes later, John strode through the hallways of Beacon Academy. His black overcoat still dotted with rain. Principal Wallace met him near the nurse's office, wringing his hands. "Mr. Pierce, I assure you this is not typical of our where's my daughter." John's voice was ice. The principal led him to a small room where 6-year-old Lucy sat on an examination table. Her strawberry blonde hair matted with dried blood. A boy with a broken arm sat across from her, sobbing while his mother fussed over him. The other boy called Lucy names about her mother. Principal Wallace explained nervously. "Things got physical. Mrs. Donnelly claims Lucy started it." "Tell Detective Rodriguez I want the security footage," John said without looking at the principal. He turned to Lucy, whose green eyes met his without flinching. "What did he say?" "He said mommy was a bad word. That she sleeps with lots of men." Lucy's voice was steady, but her small fists clenched. "I told him to shut up. He pushed me. I pushed back. He cried and lied." Pride swelled in John's chest. Lucy had his fire, his refusal to be intimidated. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did right, Mrs. Donnelly." Stepped forward, face flushed with indignation. "How do you encourage this behavior? Your daughter broke my Timothy's arm." John's eyes fixed on her, and she involuntarily stepped back. "Your son will learn today that words have consequences. Consider his arm an inexpensive lesson." That evening, John returned to their brownstone in Beacon Hill. The house stood like a fortress, 3 stories of brick and iron, renovated with the latest security systems, his own design. As he entered, classical music drifted from the drawing room. Margaret, his wife of 12 years, sat with a glass of Pinot Grigio, her auburn hair cascading over the shoulders of her silk blouse. "How's Lucy?" she asked without turning. "She'll be fine. Handled herself like a Pierce." The next morning, John woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of the news. He found William already dressed, watching the morning news in the kitchen. "Morning, champ." John poured himself a cup. "Morning, Dad." William did not take his eyes off the screen. A breaking news alert flashed across the bottom. A car crash in St. Louis. The driver, a woman, was pronounced dead at the scene. The passenger, a young girl, is in critical condition. John's heart pounded. He grabbed the remote, turning up the volume. The reporter stood outside a mangled car, yellow tape cordoning off the area. The accident occurred around 2 a.m. The car veered off the road and plunged into a ravine. The woman has been identified as Margaret Pierce, wife of prominent security contractor John Pierce. The girl is their daughter, Lucy. John's world tilted. He gripped the counter, knuckles white. "William, stay here? I'm going to St. Louis." He rushed to his study, grabbing his gun and passport. His mind raced, a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. He called his pilot, ordered the jet fueled and ready. As he hurried back to the kitchen, he found William standing, face pale. "Dad, what's happening?" John pulled his son into a tight hug. "I do not know, champ. But I'm going to find out." He held William at arm's length, looking into his eyes. "You're in charge while I'm gone. Keep the doors locked, do not answer the phone unless it's me or your Aunt Victoria. Understand?" William nodded, tears welling in his eyes. John grabbed his coat and rushed out the door, his mind a storm of what-ifs and prayers. The drive to the airstrip was a blur. He boarded the jet, his heart pounding in his chest. As the plane took off, he pulled out his phone, dialing Detective Rodriguez. "Rod, it's John. I'm on my way to St. Louis. What do you know?" There was a pause before Rod spoke. "John, it's bad. The car went off the road. Single vehicle accident. No signs of foul play. But John, the girl. Lucy, she's in a coma. The doctors do not know if she'll wake up." John's grip tightened on the phone. "I'm on my way. Keep me updated." He hung up, his mind racing. He had to get to St. Louis. He had to see Margaret. He had to see Lucy. The plane sped through the sky, but it was not fast enough. John's heart ached with each passing mile. He had to get there. He had to know the truth. The truth about the accident. The truth about Margaret. The truth about everything. As the plane descended towards St. Louis, John steeled himself. He had to be strong. For Lucy. For William. For himself. He had to find out what happened. And he had to make sure it never happened again. As they moved through the dark tunnel, John kept his children close, his senses on high alert. The faint smell of gas lingered in his nostrils, a chilling reminder of the danger they had left behind. The tunnel was narrow and damp, the air thick with the scent of earth and old wine. John's heart pounded in his chest, but his voice remained steady as he guided his children through the darkness. Stay close, both of you. We need to be quiet and quick. Lucy's small hand gripped his tightly while William followed closely behind, his breath steady and calm. The tunnel seemed to stretch on forever, but finally they reached the end. John pushed open the heavy door, revealing the dimly lit wine cellar. He scanned the area, ensuring it was safe before stepping out. We need to find a safe place to hide until we can figure out what's happening, John whispered. He led them up the stairs, emerging into the abandoned building. The air was thick with dust and the silence was deafening. John's mind raced as he tried to piece together the events of the night. Margaret's words echoed in his head, by morning they'll all be gone. He could not believe it. His own wife, the mother of his children, had tried to kill them. The betrayal cut deep, but he pushed the pain aside. He had to focus on keeping his children safe. They moved quietly through the building, John's eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. He knew they could not stay here long. They needed to find a place where they could lay low, where they could regroup and plan their next move. As they made their way through the city streets, John's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He had to find out who Margaret had been working with. He had to uncover the truth behind this plot. And he had to make sure that no one ever threatened his family again. The streets were deserted at this hour, the only sounds the distant hum of traffic and the occasional bark of a dog. John kept his children close, his senses on high alert. He knew that they were not safe yet. Not by a long shot. But he also knew that he would do whatever it took to protect them. Whatever it took to keep them alive. As they walked, John's mind drifted back to the night before. To the way Margaret had looked at him, her eyes cold and distant. He had seen the calculation in her gaze, the cold determination. And he had pushed it aside, choosing to believe in the woman he had fallen in love with all those years ago. But now he knew the truth. Margaret was a stranger to him. A dangerous, deadly stranger. And he had to be ready for whatever she threw at him next. As they reached a safe house, a hidden location known only to a few trusted associates, John's resolve hardened. He would find out who was behind this. He would uncover the truth. And he would make them pay. For everything. The Coleman family had covered for her, providing an alibi. But John's instincts told him there was more to the story. He dug deeper, using every resource at his disposal. He hacked into the Coleman family's private communications, uncovering a web of deceit and manipulation. Margaret had been working with someone inside the Coleman family, someone who had access to his security systems. The pieces began to fall into place. John's mind raced as he pieced together the puzzle. He had to find out who was behind this. He had to uncover the truth. And he had to make sure that no one ever threatened his family again. As he worked, he kept his children close, never letting them out of his sight. He knew that they were not safe yet. Not by a long shot. But he also knew that he would do whatever it took to protect them. Whatever it took to keep them alive. The days turned into weeks and the weeks into months. John's investigation led him down a dark and twisted path, one that revealed secrets and lies he never could have imagined. He uncovered a conspiracy that went deeper than he ever could have thought possible. A conspiracy that involved people he trusted, people he thought he knew. As he delved deeper into the web of deceit, John's resolve hardened. He would find out who was behind this. He would uncover the truth. And he would make them pay. For everything. The safe house became their home. A place of refuge and safety. John taught his children how to defend themselves, how to be vigilant and aware. He knew that they had to be ready for whatever came next. He knew that they had to be strong. As the months passed, John's investigation began to bear fruit. He uncovered the truth about Margaret's involvement, about the Coleman family's role in the conspiracy. He found out who had been working with her, who had betrayed him, and he made them pay. One by one, he took them down, using every resource at his disposal. He used his knowledge of security systems, his contacts in the underworld, his skills as a fighter and a strategist. He left no stone unturned, no lead unfollowed. He was relentless in his pursuit of the truth. and he was unstoppable. As he worked, he kept his children close, never letting them out of his sight. He knew that they were not safe yet, not by a long shot, but he also knew that he would do whatever it took to protect them, whatever it took to keep them alive. The world thought the Pierce family was dead, but John knew the truth. He knew that they were alive, that they were fighting, and he knew that they would never give up, never surrender, never back down. They were the Pierce family, and they would rise from the ashes. They would fight back, and they would win. He gathered evidence, tracked financial transactions, and dug into Vincent Caldwell's past. The man was a rising star in the architectural world, known for his innovative designs and ambitious projects. But John saw through the facade. He saw the greed, the ambition, the ruthless determination to succeed at any cost. He saw a man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. And he saw a man who had underestimated John Pierce. John's investigation revealed that Vincent had been working with Margaret for months, planning their future together. They had met at a charity event, and Margaret had been smitten from the start. She had seen in Vincent a way out of her marriage, a chance to start anew with someone who shared her ambitions. But John knew the truth. He knew that Vincent was a gold digger, a man who saw Margaret as a means to an end, a way to gain access to John's fortune, to his business, to his life. And he had been willing to kill for it. John's evidence was irrefutable. He had bank records, surveillance footage, emails, and text messages. He had everything he needed to expose Vincent and Margaret for the frauds they were. But he knew that he could not act alone. He needed help. He needed allies. He reached out to his contacts, to the people he trusted, to the people who owed him favors. And he began to build his army. An army of men and women who were willing to fight for justice, for truth, and for the Pierce family. As he worked, John kept his children close, never letting them out of his sight. He knew that they were not safe yet, not by a long shot, but he also knew that he would do whatever it took to protect them, whatever it took to keep them alive. The days turned into weeks and the weeks into months. John's army grew, and his plan took shape. He would expose Vincent and Margaret for the frauds they were. He would take back what was rightfully his, and he would make them pay for everything. The time had come, the time to strike, the time to take back what was his, the time to make them pay. John's eyes gleamed with a cold, steely determination. He was ready, he was prepared, and he was unstoppable. He would not rest until justice was served, until the truth was known, until the Pierce family was safe, and until Vincent and Margaret paid for their crimes. The hunt was on, and John Pierce was the hunter. Margaret stared at the photo, her hands trembling as the reality settled over her. Her carefully constructed world began to crack. She glanced around the room, suddenly wary of every shadow, every whisper. Panic flashed in her eyes. Vincent tried to reassure her, but his words fell flat. All of Margaret's confidence from the memorial evaporated. She was exposed, and she knew it. John watched from afar, his satisfaction cold and fierce. The trap was set. He wanted them desperate, off balance, looking for mistakes and revealing their remaining secrets. John's allies moved in, tightening surveillance and feeding each slip back to him. Meanwhile, he worked with Raymond to freeze accounts, track the offshore money trails, and build a legal case airtight enough to withstand even Margaret's lawyers. Margaret's agitation grew. She tried to move funds but discovered the accounts were already locked down. She contacted Victoria in a panic, but Victoria was in just as deep and just as exposed. John arranged for anonymous emails to land in the inboxes of the Coleman family's creditors and the board of Pierce Security Solutions. The emails contained just enough evidence to raise suspicion about embezzlement, security breaches, and dubious connections. Vincent, scared and suddenly less loyal, attempted to reach out to one of his other wealthy paramours, hoping to cut and run. But John was waiting. A disguised private security team intercepted him at the airport, ensuring Vincent could not disappear with stolen money or secrets. As the walls closed in, Margaret finally left the brownstone for a late-night meeting in an abandoned parking garage, hoping for answers from her sister and Vincent. She got more than she bargained for. As John S. surveillance team watched every move, Margaret S. betrayal, her desperation, became clear. She was cornered, angry, and afraid. And with each misstep, John grew closer to bringing his family's true enemies to justice. The day was fast approaching when the world would learn the truth about Margaret, Vincent, and the Colemans. And John Pierce would reclaim not just his fortune, but the safety and dignity of his family. John's eyes narrowed, his voice dripping with contempt. Freedom? Money? You wanted to kill your own family for that? You pathetic Margaret. You always were. I should have seen it sooner. I should have known you were capable of this. He took a step closer, his presence dominating the room. But I would not make that mistake again. You gonna pay for what you've done. You going to pay for trying to destroy my family. Margaret's breath hitched, her eyes wide with fear. John, please. I can explain. I can make this right. She tried to sound desperate, but John saw through her lies. Make it right, he scoffed. There's no making this right, Margaret. You crossed a line. You tried to kill us. You tried to take everything from me. And for what? For a man who does not give a damn about you? For money that will never be enough? He shook his head, disgust etched on his face. You a fool, Margaret. A selfish, greedy fool. And now you going to face the consequences. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small device. He pressed a button, and the warehouse doors slid shut with a loud clang. Margaret jumped, her eyes darting to the exit. John, what are you doing? She tried to sound calm, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. I'm giving you a choice, Margaret. You can either face the law and spend the rest of your life in prison, or you can take the easy way out. Your choice. He held up a small vial, the contents shimmering in the dim light. This will be painless, quick, no suffering. But if you choose to fight, I promise you, it will be a battle you not win. Margaret's eyes widened as she stared at the vial, her mind racing. She knew she was cornered, that there was no way out, but she also knew that she could not face the consequences of her actions. She could not face the shame, the humiliation, the punishment. She reached out, her hand trembling as she took the vial from John. I'm sorry, John, she whispered, her voice choked with tears. I'm so sorry. John watched as she uncapped the vial, her hand shaking. He said nothing, his expression unreadable. As she raised the vial to her lips, he turned away, unable to watch. The sound of her collapsing to the floor echoed through the warehouse, a chilling reminder of the choices she had made. John took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. He had to finish this. He had to make sure that Margaret and her accomplices paid for their crimes. And he had to do it without mercy. For his family, for his children, for himself. He turned back to Margaret's lifeless body, his resolve hardening. The hunt was over, but the battle for justice had just begun. Your lives will be ruined. You will spend the rest of your days in prison, hounded by the press, shunned by society. Option 2. You disappear. Tonight, you leave behind everything you know, everyone you love. You start over somewhere far away with new identities, new lives. But know this, if you ever come back, if you ever try to contact anyone from your old life, I will know. And I will make you pay. The room was silent, the weight of John's words hanging heavy in the air. Margaret looked at Vincent, her eyes filled with desperation. He shook his head, his face pale. We not just disappear, he whispered. We have nothing. No money, no connections. Victoria spoke up, her voice trembling. What about our children? Our families? John's voice was cold, unyielding. You should have thought about them before you tried to murder my family. You should have thought about the consequences of your actions. But you did not. And now you have to live with the choices you made. Charles Coleman, his face red with anger, slammed his fist on the table. You not do this. You not just take everything from us. John's laughter echoed through the room, a chilling sound. I can and I will. You I have something you do not. I have the power. I have the evidence. I have the means to make your lives a living hell. And I will use them if I have to. But I'm giving you a choice. A chance to start over, to disappear, to leave behind the mess you've made. Take it or face the consequences. The choice is yours. The room fell silent again, the weight of John's words pressing down on each person. Margaret looked at Vincent, then at her sister, then at the Harringtons. She knew what she had to do. She had to save herself. She had to save her family. She had to disappear. She turned to John, her voice steady and resolved. We'll do it. We'll disappear. We'll leave everything behind. Just please, do not hurt our families. Do not hurt our children. John's voice was cold, unyielding. Then you know what you have to do. You have 1 hour to gather your things and leave. 1 hour to say your goodbyes and walk away from your old lives. 1 hour to start over. And remember, if you ever come back, if you ever try to contact anyone from your old life, I will know. And I will make you pay. The screen went dark, the lights came back on, and the room was filled with the sound of sobs and whispered goodbyes. Margaret and Vincent hurriedly packed their belongings, their faces pale and drawn. The Colemans did the same, their movements mechanical, their eyes empty. The Harringtons, silent and composed, gathered their things and left without a word. As the hour ticked away, the room grew quieter, the air heavier. And then, one by one, they left. They walked out of the hotel, out of their old lives and into the unknown. They disappeared, leaving behind the mess they made, the lives they ruined, the families they betrayed. And John watched, his eyes cold and unyielding as they walked away. He had one. He had justice. He had his family back, and he would never let anyone threaten them again. They knew the truth, every sordid detail. He saw the mix of horror, relief, and pride in their eyes. It's over, he told them, his voice steady and calm. They see not hurt us anymore. William nodded, his young face serious. We knew you'd win, Dad. Lucy, her voice small but determined, added, we knew you'd make them pay. John pulled them into a tight hug, feeling a sense of closure and new beginning. We're going home, he announced. To our real home. It's time to start over, to build something better. The drive back to Beacon Hill was quiet, each of them lost in their thoughts. As they pulled up to the brownstone, John looked at the house, seeing it with new eyes. It was more than just a building, it was a symbol of their strength, their resilience, their triumph. He turned to his children, a soft smile on his face. Welcome home, kids. They stepped inside, the familiar scent of the house enveloping them. It was as if no time had passed, yet everything had changed. John led them to the living room where a fire crackled in the hearth. He sat down, pulling them close. We have a lot to talk about, he began. About what happened, about what's next. But for now, let us just be together. Let us be a family. William looked up at him, his eyes shining with unshed tears. I'm glad you back, Dad. I'm glad we home. Lucy snuggled closer, her voice sleepy. Me too, Daddy. Me too. John kissed the top of her head, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. They had been through hell and back, but they had made it. They had survived. And they would thrive. Over the next few weeks, they worked to rebuild their lives. John took over the reins of Pierce Security Solutions, his reputation and skills unmatched. He hired new engineers, implemented stricter security measures, and ensured that no one would ever betray his trust again. William and Lucy adjusted to their new reality with remarkable resilience. They attended therapy sessions, talked openly about their feelings, and supported each other. They knew the truth about their mother, about the Colemans, about Vincent. And they knew that their father would always protect them, always keep them safe. One evening, as they sat down to dinner, John looked at his children, his heart swelling with love and pride. You know, he said, his voice soft, we've been through a lot. More than most families ever will. But we've come out stronger. We've come out better. William smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the room. We're the Pierce family, Dad. We do not give up. We do not back down. We fight. Lucy nodded, her small hand reaching out to squeeze his. And we win, she added. John's eyes gleamed with unshed tears. Yes, we win, he agreed. And we'll keep winning. Together. As they finished their meal, the house filled with the sound of their laughter, their voices blending in harmony. They were a family bound by love, by strength, by the unbreakable bonds of their shared experiences. They were the Pierce family, and they would never be defeated. They would never be broken. They would rise from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever before. And they would live, truly live, in the home they had fought so hard to reclaim. They shared everything from fears to triumphs, building a bond unbreakable. William showed a knack for strategy, helping his father with business decisions. Lucy, despite her young age, displayed an uncanny ability to read people, a skill John nurtured. She became his secret weapon in negotiations, her insights often proving invaluable. One evening, as they sat in the living room, the fire casting a warm glow, John looked at his children. "You know, I've been thinking," he began, "about what comes next. About how we can make sure this never happens again." William looked up from his book, his eyes serious. "What do you mean, Dad?" John took a deep breath, his mind made up. "I mean, we need to be more than just a security firm. We need to be a family. A real family. One that stands together no matter what." Lucy's eyes widened with excitement. "What do you have in mind?" John smiled, his heart swelling with pride and love. "I want to create a foundation. A place where families like ours can find help, support, and protection. A place where children can learn to defend themselves, where parents can learn to trust again. A place where we can make a difference." William nodded, his eyes shining with determination. "I like that idea, Dad. I really do." Lucy clapped her hands, her face lit up with joy. "Me too. We can help other families just like we helped each other." John pulled them into a tight hug, his heart full. "That's the spirit. Together we can do anything. Together we can make a difference." Over the next few months, they worked tirelessly to bring John's vision to life. They hired the best architects, the most innovative designers, and the most dedicated staff. They created programs for children, workshops for parents, and support groups for families. They built a sanctuary, a haven, a place where hope could grow. And as they worked, they grew closer, their bond strengthening with each passing day. They faced challenges, setbacks, and obstacles, but they faced them together. They supported each other, encouraged each other, and lifted each other up. They were a family bound by love, by strength, by the unbreakable bonds of their shared experiences. And they would never be defeated. They would never be broken. They would rise from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever before. And they would make a difference. They would change the world, one family at a time. As they stood in the newly completed foundation, looking out at the children playing, the parents laughing, and the families reuniting, John knew that they had done something truly special. They had created a legacy, a testament to their strength, their resilience, and their love. They had created a future where families could heal, where children could dream, and where hope could shine. And they had done it together. As a family. As the Pierce family. As they sat in the dimly lit living room, the fire casting long shadows, John looked at his children, his heart swelling with pride and love. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about the past, about what we've been through, and about what's to come," he began, his voice steady and calm. "We've faced darkness and we've come out stronger. We've learned that family is everything and that justice sometimes has to be our own." William nodded, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "We've learned to trust carefully, to watch constantly, and to never let our guard down," he said, his voice firm. "And we've learned that betrayal has a price." Lucy, her eyes shining with determination, added, "And we've learned that we can overcome anything as long as we stand together." John smiled, his heart full. "Exactly. And that's why I want to make sure that you both understand the importance of what we've built, of what we've fought for. I want to make sure that you carry on our legacy, that you protect our family, and that you never forget the lessons we've learned." He paused, his eyes serious. "Because one day it will be your turn to lead, to protect, and to fight. And I want to make sure that you're ready." William and Lucy exchanged a look, their bond unbreakable. "We ready, Dad?" William said, his voice steady. "We've been ready for a long time." Lucy nodded, her chin held high. "We will not let you down. We will not let our family down. We'll protect what's ours, and we'll make sure that justice is served." John's eyes gleamed with pride. "I know you will. And I know that you'll make me proud. Just as you always have." He stood, his voice firm. "Now let us make a toast. To family. To justice. To the future." They raised their glasses, their voices blending in harmony. To family. To justice. To the future. As they drank, the room filled with a sense of peace, of closure, of new beginnings. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. They had learned the lessons of betrayal and justice. And they would carry on, protecting their family, fighting for what was right, and never forgetting the past. For they were the Pierce family, and they would never be defeated. They would never be broken. They would rise from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever before. And they would make a difference. They would change the world, one family at a time. Their wealth vanished in lawsuits and endless investigations. Charles Coleman died alone in a modest nursing home, no family by his side. Victoria remarried twice, each ending in messy divorces. The Coleman name, once heralded in Boston's elite circles, faded into obscurity. The children of the Coleman family grew up distant from privilege, learning caution and humility, their inheritance now lessons rather than fortunes. Margaret's memory became nothing more than a whispered warning in the Pierce family, a reminder of what comes to those who betray blood. Her grave, untended and cold, stood in stark contrast to John's, always adorned with flowers, always visited by generations grateful for his unwavering strength. Lucy pulled her coat tighter as the wind picked up. Nathan clutched her hand, looking up at her with wide eyes. "Mama, did Grandpa ever do anything wrong?" he wondered aloud. She crouched to his level, gazing into the earnest faces of her sons. "We all make choices, darling. Your grandpa did what he thought he had to protect us all. Sometimes justice is not clean or easy. But family meant everything to him. That's what matters most. Family protects family always." William's hand rested gently on Lucy's shoulder. "He protected us even from each other when he had to." Lucy nodded, rising to stand with her family. Together, they recited quietly the Pierce family creed: blood before all, loyalty above comfort, justice without mercy for betrayal. The next generation carried it forward: Nathan, Noah, Samantha's boy, and every Pierce yet to be born. The lessons of betrayal and the price of justice were written not just in stories handed down, but in the very marrow of their bones. As the family walked away from the grave, the sun broke through the clouds and illuminated the headstone: ***, John Pierce ***, beloved father and protector, family above all else. And so the legacy endured, undaunted, unbroken, unstoppable. The testament was now theirs to keep. The world beyond Boston shimmered with the promise of spring, unaware that in the shadow of one family's strength, justice would always find its way. The story of Tommy Russo became another cornerstone in Pierce family lore, a testament to the kind of loyalty and courage John demanded from his circle. His children and grandchildren, brought up alongside William and Lucy, became trusted partners in Pierce Security Solutions, forming the backbone of the company's new generation. The bond between the Russos and the Pierces was unbreakable, family by blood and by choice. As years rolled by, the Pierce empire flourished. Under Lucy's and William's stewardship, the company pioneered cutting-edge advancements in security technology, becoming a global standard for integrity and innovation. The family's foundation grew, changing countless lives for the better and quietly supporting those who'd been wronged by betrayal or violence. John's legacy appeared in both grand gestures: a new state-of-the-art children's wing at Massachusetts General Hospital bearing the Pierce name, and the subtle everyday choices his descendants made. By now, Pierce Security Solutions stood as both a fortress and a beacon, staffed by men and women who understood loyalty, justice, and the high cost of crossing a Pierce. William's children and Lucy's twins grew up hearing the stories, their games inspired by family legends. They recited the creed at every holiday dinner, understanding its meaning from the stories of Margaret, the Colemans, and all the fallen. Family above all. Loyalty above comfort. Justice for the betrayed, no mercy for betrayers. As old Beacon Hill transformed around them, the Pierce family stood strong, older, wiser, and steadfast in their commitment to each other and to the legacy begun by John Pierce. The world changed, but some things remained the same. In the halls of their new home, laughter rang out, and at every gathering, the elders would remind the young: never forgive, never forget, and never let betrayal go unpunished. In Boston and far beyond, the name Pierce evoked both fear and respect. And as Lucy told her children and grandchildren, this is our testament. This is our legacy. This is the price of betrayal and the reward of loyalty and family. Protect it. Cherish it. Pass it on. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the fortress on Beacon Hill where the final lesson had been written. True power lies not in vengeance, but in the unwavering love and loyalty only family can give. She had. And so had William. And so would their children. And their children's children. The legacy would endure, passed down through generations, a testament to John's unyielding principles and the power of family. As the family gathered for dinner, the house filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses. The twins, Nathan and Noah, ran around with their cousins, their energy boundless. Lucy watched them, her heart swelling with pride and love. They were the future, the next generation of Pierces, and they would carry on the family's legacy with the same fierceness and loyalty that John had instilled in her and William. William raised his glass, his voice steady and strong. To family, he said. To justice. To the legacy of John Pierce. The room echoed with the chorus of voices, each one a testament to the bond that held them together. To family. To justice. To the legacy of John Pierce. As the night wore on, the stories continued. Tales of betrayal and revenge, of loyalty and love, of a family that had faced the darkest of times and emerged stronger. And as Lucy looked around the table, she knew that John's spirit lived on in each of them. in the fierce determination of her children, in the unwavering loyalty of her siblings, in the unbreakable bond that held them all together. The legacy of John Pierce would endure, a beacon of strength and justice in a world that often forgot the true meaning of family. And as the family dispersed for the night, each one carrying a piece of John's legacy in their hearts, Lucy knew that the testament of the Pierce family would continue to be written, one generation at a time. The next morning, Lucy stood in the study, the journal entry still in her hand. She looked out at the city, the sun rising over the horizon, casting a golden glow over Boston. She thought of John, of his strength, his courage, and his unwavering belief in the power of family. And she knew that, no matter what challenges the future held, the Pierce family would face them together. United, unbreakable, and unstoppable. For they were the Pierce family, and they would never be defeated. They would never be broken. They would rise from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever before. And they would make a difference. They would change the world. One family at a time. The next morning, Lucy stood in her office, the city sprawling beneath her. She watched as the sun rose, casting long shadows over Boston. The team assembled, each member ready to execute their part in the plan. Tommy Russo III entered, a folder in hand. "We've got everything," he said, his voice steady. "Financials, communications, even a few personal indiscretions." He handed her the folder, a smirk on his face. Lucy opened it, her eyes scanning the pages. "Good. Let's make sure he understands the consequences of his actions." She turned to the team. "Tommy, you handle the financials. Freeze his accounts, trace the money. Make sure he knows we're watching." Tommy nodded, already on his phone, issuing orders. "William, you on the legal front. Make sure every loophole is closed. I want him to face the full force of the law." William, seated at the conference table, jotted down notes. "Already on it. I've got a team ready to file charges as soon as we have enough evidence." Samantha, standing by the window, turned to face the room. "I'll handle the psychological pressure. We need to break him down, make him see the futility of resistance." She smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "I have just the right people for the job." Lucy nodded, satisfied. "And the grandchildren?" They were eager to learn. She turned to her niece, Emily, who was just starting her career in cybersecurity. "Emily, you on communications. Make sure every message is intercepted, every call monitored. We need to know everything." Emily straightened, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "On it, Aunt Lucy." Lucy turned back to the team. "And remember, this is not just about justice. This is about sending a message. A message that betrayal will not be tolerated. That the Pierce family will always protect its own." The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. "Now let's get to work. We have a traitor to bring down." As the team dispersed, Lucy sat at her desk, her mind racing. She thought of her father, of his unwavering principles, his fierce determination. She thought of the legacy he had left behind, a legacy of loyalty, of justice, of family. And she knew that she would do whatever it took to uphold that legacy. Whatever it took to protect her family. Whatever it took to bring down those who dared to betray them. Over the next few weeks, the team worked tirelessly, gathering evidence, building their case, and applying pressure. Harrison Blake's world began to crumble around him. His accounts were frozen, his communications monitored, his every move watched. He tried to fight back, but the Pierce family was relentless. They were unstoppable. They were the dead man's shadow, walking through his children, his grandchildren, and all who bore the Pierce name. And they would not be denied. One evening, as Lucy sat in her study, the phone rang. It was William. "He's cracking," he said, his voice triumphant. "He's agreed to a full confession. He's willing to testify against his accomplices." Lucy smiled, a cold, satisfied smile. "Good. Make sure he understands the consequences of his actions. Make sure he knows that the Pierce family will always protect its own." As she hung up the phone, she looked out at the city, the lights twinkling in the night. She thought of her father, of his legacy, of the family that bore his name. And she knew that they had one. They had brought down a traitor, they had upheld justice, and they had sent a message that would echo through the generations. The Pierce family would never be defeated. They would never be broken. They would rise from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever before. And they would make a difference. They would change the world. One family at a time. The legacy of John Pierce endured, a testament to the unbreakable bonds of family, loyalty, and justice. The story of his life, his betrayal, and his relentless pursuit of vengeance became a legend whispered in the halls of power and echoed in the shadows of Boston's elite. The Pierce family stood tall, their name synonymous with strength, resilience, and an unyielding commitment to protecting their own. As the years passed, the tales of John's deeds became cautionary fables told to remind the next generation of the consequences of betrayal. The family's fortress in Beacon Hill remained a beacon of their unwavering principles, a place where justice was served and loyalty was rewarded. The twins, Nathan and Noah, grew into formidable figures, their paths shaped by the lessons of their ancestors. Nathan, with his fiery temper, became a master of strategy and tactics, while Noah, with his icy resolve, excelled in the art of manipulation and deception. Together, they ensured that the Pierce name continued to strike fear into the hearts of those who dared to cross them. Lucy and William, the pillars of the family, watched over their children and grandchildren with a watchful eye, guiding them with the same fierce determination that John had instilled in them. They knew that the legacy of the Pierce family was not just about power and wealth, but about the unbreakable bond of family and the unwavering pursuit of justice. As the sun set over Boston, casting a golden glow over the city, the Pierce family gathered in their fortress, their voices blending in harmony as they recited the family creed: blood before all, loyalty above comfort, justice without mercy for betrayal. And so, the testament of John Pierce lived on, a legacy of strength, courage, and unyielding justice. The dead man walked, his spirit alive in every member of the Pierce family, guiding them, protecting them, and ensuring that his legacy would endure for generations to come. The story of the Pierce family was one of triumph over betrayal, of justice over mercy, and of family above all else. And it would continue to be told, a testament to the power of loyalty, the strength of family, and the unbreakable bonds that held them together.